Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to Belatro's Expedition. I'm Fire Drake McPhee, and I'll be your host for this evening. On today's menu is the house specialty, a speed paint with a lovely artist commentary sauce. Trust me, it'll be delicious. So, shall we begin? To begin with, we have a lovely twitching effect as I adjusted the pose of a model who ends up not being in the final work at all, so ignore this. And now we see me changing the pose for one of the models we will see in the final page, the bastard god of bastards, Ishmael. Hey, what's the hand there, buddy? YouTube doesn't like that kind of thing. Let's try to keep it PG, right? Speaking of which, you may notice that my models here are looking a little gray. I did this just in case someone out there in YouTube land decides to flag me for nudity or something, because models are not wearing clothes, despite none of them having any, shall we say, naughty bits. I'm sorry if this takes away from the spiciness of the dish, but what can you do? I'm sure it'll be fine. But as I was saying, I'm just posing our friend Ishmael here, the bastard god of bastards. Not the nicest of fellows, but no, he's not actually the quote-unquote bad guy. And now I'm finally moving our main protagonist out of the pose she's been in since the middle of chapter 1. Okay, true, the story has been focused away from her until just a few pages ago, but still. Needless to say, she's a little startled by this random guy suddenly appearing beside her, apparently out of nowhere. Okay then, now I've finished setting up the poses, rendered, imported them into Clip Studio Paint, where I now begin the line work. Alright, there's not a lot to say about this part, so I'll just take this opportunity to say I hope people liked my last little, shall we say, bonus video, where I sang a little song while showing shots of my puppy dog. It was just a little quickie thing I threw together last week for grits and shiggles. I may or may not do more videos like that one. Yeah, I probably will because it was fun. Now, back to this video. Here I'm working again on Ishmael. I had to pull up a previous page to remind me of a few costume details. Oh, and no, he's not giving her a thumbs up. He's actually flipping a coin, which he pulled out of his pocket in the last page. I should be putting the coin in here shortly. Yes, here we go. I had to remember exactly where I put my design for it to import it in. But as you see, I did find it, and boom, instant coin. Well, okay, almost instant. I did have to do a little tweaking here to make it more than just a squash disc. It actually needed some depth. I'll probably have done that a little less clumsily, but hey, it worked out in the end. Oh, and here's a little lore for the world while we're here. Ishmael here is, as I said, the god of bastards. And this is meant in both a literal and figurative sense, by the way. He's actually the very first of the new gods who started showing up about 20 years ago when the old gods disappeared, or at least seemed to. It's complicated. And it looks like I've moved on to laying down the base colors. You may notice an occasional flash from another page with a bunch of labeled circles. This is a page I reference to get the basic colors for anything that I know I'll be referencing often, such as characters. This is actually something I've only started doing recently when I realized that it would be much faster to have this page than to keep going back and forth between current and previous pages to get your colors, and particularly since they would be on different layers and I'd have to figure, okay, which layer is it on? Yeah, definitely a much better solution. Okay, now I'm doing the hair. I love doing the details of the hair. It's the one place where I feel comfortable removing the lines completely that I've done earlier. I put them in at the beginning when I'm doing the line work so that I have a guide and to make it easier to block in the base colors. But when I'm ready to color in the details, the first thing I do is remove those lines. Of course, my favorite part is drawing in any stray hair, any individual strands. That's why I particularly love to do Bethiel's hair. That's the guardian Spirit, who's not in this shot, by the way. Her hair is extra long and flies around dramatically, fanning out at the slightest motion. Makes for a lot of interesting things to draw. That, and it also makes it very easy to tell when she's moving. So, yeah, Ishmael. I mentioned he's not a nice guy, but also not really the bad guy. He's, in his own words, follows an alternate system of morality. No one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind green eyes. Yeah, I keep associating that song with him, though in truth it doesn't really fit. The song seems to be lamenting, that no one truly understands this bad guy, this evil guy, da 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 da, but no one understands. While Ishmael, well, he positively revels in his bastardness. Doesn't really care that whether or not anybody understands him. He's just a bastard. All right then, basic coloring done. Now I'm starting into the shading. In some ways, I'll actually be glad when this scene is over because there's just an extreme amount of shadow muting everything down. It is necessary since they're in an alley, but it still makes for a lot of desaturated dark colors in the final work. And I generally prefer brighter colors in my work, possibly because I'm partially colorblind, so it helps me differentiate the shades a little easier. Now, about this coin that he's flipping here. Some of you may have noticed it glowing green in the last page, and then I've done the same thing here. Yes, it is magical, but no, I'm not going to explain what it does because spoilers! Suffice it to say that it is something of a MacGuffin. If you don't know what a MacGuffin is, Google it. Also, I'll put a link to a video about it in the little card thingy up here in the corner here. Now I'm writing this page's monologue. This should be the last page for a while with monologue. We'll get back to actual conversations in the next page. I actually go back in a little bit and rewrite a lot of this after getting input from my lovely wife, who I'll call Mockingbird here. As I've said in a previous video, I always get her to do some QA on each of these pages before I finalize them. Also went back and made some other changes to the drawing itself, such as adding in the eyebrows I'd forgotten earlier and making the muscle on his left arm a touch bigger and more defined. And also tweaking the lighting and shadowing a bit, as well as lengthening his ponytail. Oh, and here I am making those changes to the monologue I mentioned earlier. I started to add a bit more to the final daddy that was there, but decided to hold off on that because it just took away from the punch of that, call me daddy. Or, yeah, that and Mockingbird, then I decided that Ishmael probably wouldn't like the word daddy, so it changed it to dad. And I believe, yes, that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This page didn't take as long as most pages, probably because when you're drawing digitally, how long it takes has a lot more to do with the number of total images you're drawing than how much space you're covering. In other words, it takes nearly as long to make a little panel that only takes up 1/8 of a page than it does to just make a single panel that fills up the page. So that being said, next page is going to have a lot of panels in it, so I expect it to take a while longer than most, so you may not hear from me again for another 3 weeks or so, instead of my normal 2 weeks, or at least that's how I try to keep it. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed your meal, and will join us again at Balatro's Expedition. As always, share, like, subscribe, and remember, be kind to everyone, especially yourself.